imagine stepping aboard a grand old world luxury train, the kind that seems to belong to another era, a quieter time, when travel itself was a cherished pleasure, rather than merely a means to get somewhere. Before we begin our journey, I want to share the heart behind Sleepbound Traveler. This space was created for adults who long for a moment of peace, a soft landing at the end of a long day. Think of it as your nightly passport to calm, where every story becomes a doorway to rest. If these journeys bring you comfort, consider liking, subscribing, and giving us a comment. It helps us continue creating peaceful escapes for you to enjoy night after night. Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a slow, easy breath in and let it drift gently out. Relax. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, no task waiting for your attention, no worry pressing at the edges of your mind. You are calm. You are relaxed. You are only here, only now, only enjoying this beautiful experience. The train platform is lit by soft lanterns glowing amber in the early winter evening. The air is crisp and cold and carries the faint, clean scent of pine and snow. You can feel the cold just at the tip of your nose, just at your fingertips. And yet you know that warmth is only steps away. And then, before you climb the steps into the train carriage, you feel something brush against your ankle. You look down. A black and white cat blinks up at you with amber eyes full of mischief and intelligence. He is a handsome fellow. Sleek black fur across his back and a perfectly white chest, as if he dressed for a formal occasion. He sits with the supreme confidence of a creature who has already decided that wherever you are going, he is going too. There's a small brass tag on his collar. You lean down and read it. Gary. Gary the cat regards you for exactly 1 second, then turns and trots purposefully up the polished steps into the carriage, his tail held high like a flag. You follow him, smiling. The door closes softly behind you, a gentle, solid sound, and immediately the cold retreats. The warmth of the carriage wraps around you like a favorite old blanket, the kind that has been warmed by years of comfort. The air inside smells of cedar and sandalwood, with a faint, sweet trace of oranges and cloves from somewhere deeper in the train. It is the smell of winter evenings, the smell of rest. Gary is already a few steps ahead, padding along the corridor paneled in rich, dark walnut. The carpet beneath your feet is a deep, velvety burgundy and swallows the sound of your steps completely. And Gary's too, though he moves with a natural silence that needs no help from any carpet. The train hums, low and steady, like a lullaby already beginning. And with each step you take, your shoulders drop just a little. Gary slides open the door to your compartment with a paw, somehow, and steps inside as if he owns it. The train walls are paneled in the same warm walnut as the corridor, and a small brass lamp on the wall casts a golden circle of light over everything. The seat, your seat, is upholstered in thick, sage green velvet, deep and soft, shaped perfectly for you to sink into. Folded at one end is a blanket, a wool blanket the color of cream, with a wide woven border in forest green. It looks impossibly soft, and it is. You reach out and touch it, and yes, it is just as soft as it looks. Gary has already claimed the opposite corner of the seat. He has turned 3 precise circles and arranged himself into a perfect black and white circle of cat, his chin resting on his own tail, watching you with half-closed golden eyes. You sit down beside him, draw the wool blanket across your lap. Gary tucks his tail in, just barely to let you, and cradle the steaming mug that sits waiting on the small table beside the window. It is mulled wine, warm and spiced, fragrant with cinnamon and starriness, and something dark and sweet, perhaps a touch of vanilla. The warmth of it travels from your palms, up through your wrists, and into your arms. You feel it travel all the way through you, a slow, golden warmth spreading from your center outward. Gary purrs, and the train begins to move. The motion is so gentle at first that you almost don't notice it. Just a slight, subtle swaying, like being rocked very slowly in a great cradle. The platform outside the window begins to drift backward, the amber lanterns sliding away one by one, and then the lights of the station thin and fade, and you're moving through the evening countryside, gathering speed so smoothly, so gradually, that your body barely registers the change. Gary's purring deepens, perfectly in rhythm with the train. You are excited, but calm. Outside the window, the landscape is already softened into the blue-gray of winter dusk. Fields of snow stretch away from the tracks, glowing faintly with the last of the daylight stored in the white. Bare trees stand at the edges of fields, their dark branches tracing delicate patterns against the sky. And there, beside the tree line, you spot the first of them, a small brown rabbit sitting perfectly still at the edge of a snow-covered field, its nose twitching, its dark eyes bright against the white. Then another, just a few meters away, and another. A whole family of rabbits in the blue dusk, their small, warm bodies dotting the snow like scattered seeds. One of them sits up on its hind legs, watching the train pass with great, dignified interest. Then, the trees close in, and they are gone, already part of the journey that has been. Occasionally, in the far distance, you can see the warm squares of farmhouse windows, little golden rectangles, cozy and remote, belonging to another story, another life. You pass them gently and they disappear behind you. And then, so naturally, you almost miss the moment it happens. The mountains appear. The train curves gently around a long bend. The Alps reveal themselves more fully, and the sight of them makes something inside you go very quiet and very still. Their peaks are white with snow, luminous even in the fading light, as though they hold some inner glow. The lower slopes are dark with forest, great black sweeps of pine, ancient and undisturbed. And above the tree line, pure white begins. Pure white all the way up to peaks that seem to vanish into the gray-violet sky. They are so immense. Looking at them, you feel your own smallness, and strangely, beautifully, it is a relief. Your worries, which felt so large inside your mind, seem to shrink in the presence of these mountains. They have stood here for millions of years. They will stand for millions more. And in the soft, warm carriage of this train, watching them drift past the frosted window, You feel something deep and quiet release inside you. Gary opens one amber eye, regards the mountains for a moment with the calm approval of one who has seen many fine things in his travels, and closes it again. There's a soft sound you might have almost missed. The attendant who moves silently through the corridor outside, pausing at each compartment to ensure all is well. You hear the faint rustle of a curtain being adjusted, and then quiet again. The train takes care of its passengers. Everything here has been thought of, every small comfort anticipated. You pull the wool blanket a little higher. The fringe at its edge brushes your chin. You feel your body release another degree of tension into the cushions beneath you. Your back softens. Your hips settle. There is no part of you that is bracing against anything anymore. Gary shifts, his small, warm weight pressing lightly against your leg. And the contact is oddly comforting. The warmth of another living creature beside you in the lamplight. Through the window, the last of the farmland has given way entirely to mountain terrain. And as the train rounds a long, slow curve, something moves at the edge of the tree line. Something orange and fluid, moving through the snow with the boneless grace of a dream. A fox, a beautiful rust-red fox, picking its way with perfect precision along the border between forest and field, its great brush of a tail sweeping the snow. It pauses and turns its sharp face toward the train, and for just one perfect moment, your eyes meet its amber ones. Then the trees fold around it, and it is gone. A flash of fire in the blue dusk, already a memory. Above the tree line, a pair of birds wheel and spiral against the gray-violet sky. Large, dark birds with broad wings, riding the cold thermals rising off the mountain slopes with effortless mastery. Eagles, perhaps. Or if not eagles, something just as ancient and confident. Something that belongs to these heights, the way the snow belongs to these peaks. They circle once more, and then tilt away into the vastness, becoming smaller and smaller until they are just specks. And then nothing at all. The land rolls and lifts and tilts, and the train follows its path through it all with complete confidence. The mountains know this train. They have made their peace with each other long ago. You are just beginning to drift into that wonderful in-between place, not quite sleeping, not quite waking, when you feel the weight beside you shift and disappear. Gary is gone. You open your eyes. The compartment door is slightly ajar, just enough for a determined cat to have pushed through it. You hear faintly the sound of purposeful small paws on velvet carpet. You wrap the cream blanket around your shoulders like a shawl. Slide your feet into your warm slippers and go to investigate. The corridor is warm and dim, the wall lamps casting their amber glow on the walnut paneling. And there, at the far end, is a flash of black and white disappearing around the corner toward the dining carriage. Of course, you follow, and the train sways gently beneath you, rocking you along like a slow dance partner. The dining carriage is everything you might have hoped for. Dark wood and white linen and gleaming silver, and candles on every table that send warm light dancing up the walls. A handful of passengers are gathered here in the late evening. Not many, just enough to give the carriage its proper atmosphere of quiet conviviality. And there is Gary. he has installed himself on a velvet banquette at a corner table where a white-haired gentleman in a burgundy smoking jacket is scratching him affectionately behind the ears. Gary's eyes are closed in an expression of absolute bliss. The gentleman looks up and smiles, a broad, unhurried smile, the kind that belongs to people who have been genuinely happy for a long time. "Your companion, I take it?" he says. You slide into the seat across from him, Gary immediately flowing into your lap like warm water, and the gentleman introduces himself as Henri, a retired watchmaker from Geneva who's taken this train every winter for 30 years. "The mountains," he says, gesturing at the dark window. "They are different every time, the same and different. You understand? You do understand. You understand completely." A waiter appears, white-jacketed, unhurried, and places before you a small plate without being asked. A fondue of mountain cheese, golden and fragrant, with cubes of dark bread for dipping, a scattering of cornichons, and a tiny pot of sharp mustard. The smell is extraordinary, nutty and rich, and deeply, wonderfully comforting in the way only cheese can be comforting on a winter night in a mountain. You dip a piece of bread. The cheese pulls in a long, golden thread. You eat, and the flavor blooms warm and round across your tongue, filling your mouth with a taste of alpine meadows and contented cows and cold, clear air. Gary watches with intense interest. Henri tells you about his wife, who takes the same journey but always reads instead of talking, and about his 3 grandchildren, and about a particularly memorable winter 40 years ago when the train was delayed overnight by snow, and the whole carriage had an impromptu dinner party that lasted until dawn. His voice is unhurried and warm, the voice of someone telling a story they love. And as you listen and eat and feel the train rock, gently beneath you, the tension in your shoulders drops another degree. After a while, Gary grows restless. He always does, and hops down from your lap with the decisive air of someone who has somewhere to be. You excuse yourself from Henri with genuine warmth, following your adventuring cat further along the train. The next carriage is quieter. A woman sits knitting in a pool of lamplight, her needles clicking a gentle rhythm that is almost musical. And she looks up and laughs softly when Gary approaches her ball of wool with obvious intent. "He won't unravel it," she says with perfect confidence. "Cats like this one, they just want to understand things." Her name's Marta, and she knits these journeys into every winter, she tells you. She is making a sweater the color of pine trees. On the table beside her is a pot of tea and a plate of Lebkuchen, spiced gingerbread biscuits, soft and fragrant with cardamom and cloves and orange zest. She presses one into your hand before you can decline, and you eat it standing there in the corridor, while Gary investigates the wool with respectful nose taps. The Lebkuchen melts on your tongue, sweet and warmly spiced, and the smell of it, all cardamom and orange and winter, fills the corridor like an embrace. Gary decides the wool is satisfactory, gives Marta's hand one precise headbutt, and moves on. He leads you finally to the observation carriage at the very end of the train. A carriage with a curved glass ceiling, designed for exactly this, for lying back and watching the mountain night unfold above you. There are deep reclining seats here, angled back to face the glass ceiling. And through that glass, the mountains, enormous and white and luminous, and the sky above them alive with stars, the snow clouds having parted just for this stretch of valley, and the Milky Way stretching from peak to peak like a bridge made of light. You settle back. Gary settles on your chest, a warm, purring weight, his small heart beating against yours. Above you, the stars wheel slowly as the train curves through the valley. A shooting star traces a brief, bright line across the dark and is gone. The mountains turn slowly as the train moves between them. Now this face of the rock, now this valley, now this ice-blue snowfield, glowing with its own cold light under the stars. Gary's purring deepens into something almost subsonic, something you feel more than hear, a vibration that travels from his small body into your chest and seems to slow your heartbeat to match it. The stars above the glass ceiling blur softly at the edges as your eyes grow heavy and your mind drifts, as minds do on night trains, toward memory. You have been here before, not on this train exactly, but to these mountains. You have visited the Alps in past years, and the memory of one particular visit rises now like wood smoke, warm and a little hazy at the edges. The time you stayed at the cabin. It was a morning in winter, early, the light still that particular blue-silver of alpine dawn. When you pulled on your warmest layers and stepped out onto the cabin porch into the cold, your breath came out in the great white clouds. The snow was fresh and undisturbed in every direction, a smooth white sheet over the meadow and the slope beyond, and the pines were heavy with it, their arms drooping gracefully under their white burden. You remember the sound of that morning, or rather, the almost sound, that profound alpine silence, the silence of altitude and winter, so complete it had a texture to it, like velvet pressed against your ears. And then a sound broke it, soft and near, and you turned to see a red squirrel sitting on the porch railing not 2 feet away, watching you with enormous dark eyes. It held a pine cone in its small, clever paws and was turning it, methodically, precisely, eating the seeds with complete concentration. It did not run. It simply looked at you once, decided you were not worth worrying about, and went back to its breakfast. You felt in that moment the specific joy of being accepted by a wild thing. The path into the forest began just at the edge of the meadow, where the snow lay in long blue shadows between the pines. You remember how the quality of the light changed the moment you stepped under the trees, filtered and dimmed and softened. The sky reduced to pale patches between the dark branches. The snow on the ground, a quieter white, undisturbed and deep. You followed the path. The snow was packed firm underfoot, and your boots made a satisfying crunch with each step. The only sound for a long time in all that wood. Then you heard the knocking, rhythmic and sharp, somewhere above your head, the unmistakable percussion of a woodpecker at work. You stopped and tilted your head back. And there it was, a great spotted woodpecker, brilliant red and black and white, attacking a pine trunk with businesslike energy. It knocked and paused, listening, its head tilted in a perfect mirror of your own curiosity. You watched it for a long time, barely breathing, until it found what it was looking for, extracted it with a long, quick thrust of its beak, and flew off in its distinctive, undulating flight, disappearing into the pine green. You walked on, deeper into the forest, and the trees grew older and larger around you. The forest floor dark and pillowed with decades of fallen needles beneath the snow, the trunks massive and furrowed, the highest branches lost in shadow. There is something in an old pine forest in winter that asks for quiet, not an uncomfortable quiet, a reverent one. The quiet of a place that has been itself for a very long time and is content to go on being itself, unhurried, unmoved, complete. You remember the deer. You came around a curve in the path and there they were, 3 of them, a doe and 2 yearlings, standing in a small clearing where the sun came through a gap in the canopy and lay in a golden patch on the snow. They were very still, all 3 of them, watching you with great soft brown eyes that held no fear, only a careful, curious attention. You stopped. You went very still yourself. For a long moment, nothing moved. Not you, not the deer, not the forest around you. Just 3 deer and 1 person, and the golden light on the white snow and the silence that held all of it like a cupped hand. Then, as if they had collectively decided the encounter was complete, the doe turned and stepped into the trees, her 2 yearlings following. They moved without sound through the deep snow, their legs lifting high, their breath making small clouds, until the forest folded around them and they were gone. Just their tracks remaining in the snow, already softening at the edges in the morning light. 3 sets of neat, pointed ovals leading into the trees. You stood there for a long moment after they had gone, not wanting to break the spell. Then a whisper of sound from above, and you looked up to see a great owl gliding silently between the pines on broad, pale wings, following its own invisible path through the forest with absolute economy of movement. Not a wing beat wasted, not a feather out of place. It passed over you without acknowledgement and was gone, and the silence rushed back in to fill the space it had left, deeper now, for having been briefly disturbed. You remember the cabin at the end of that walk, coming back out of the trees into the meadow in the mid-morning light, the snow bright and blinding after the forest's dimness, and the cabin there ahead of you, with smoke rising from its chimney in a thin, straight column into the blue sky, and the smell of it reaching you even from this distance. Inside had been a fire already burning, a pot of soup on the old iron stove, potato and leek, thick and savory and exactly right, and the cat, Gary, asleep in the most comfortable chair as if he had always lived there, as if he had been there before you, as if the cabin had been built specifically around him. He had opened one amber eye as you pulled off your boots and came around your legs with a deep, welcoming purr. The purr of a cat who is very glad you are back and has absolutely no intention of admitting how glad. You had eaten your soup by the fire, And outside the window, the snow had begun again, softly, patiently, and the mountains had been visible through the falling flakes, vast and blue and beautiful, and you had felt there is really only one word for it. You had felt home. The memory fades gently, like the last warmth of an ember, and you're back on the train. Back in the observation carriage, the stars above the glass ceiling begin to soften as new snow clouds drift in from the west. Gary is still purring on your chest, his small weight warm and steady. The train rocks. The mountains turn slowly outside. The light is fading now, lavender deepening into indigo, and the first snowflakes begin to fall. You notice them at first as just a few pale specks drifting past the curved glass, barely visible, but then more come, and more still, until the air outside is full of them, a soft, slow, continuous falling, as if the sky is letting go of something it has been holding all day. The flakes are large and unhurried. They drift sideways, then down, then drift again. On a snow-covered slope, visible through the glass, you catch sight of a family of chamois, the small, sure-footed mountain goats of the Alps, picking their way along a rocky outcrop with perfect confidence, their dark coats stark against the white. They move without hurry, each step deliberate and certain, as much at home on this vertical world as you are on your flat one. One of them pauses and looks down at the train passing far below, and there is something in its absolute steadiness, its total comfort in that impossible place, that is very calming to witness. Between the pine trees on the lower slopes, small dark shapes move. A pair of foxes, you think, though it is hard to be certain in the growing dark. They move together, close and easy, disappearing between the trees and emerging again further up the slope, following their own private map of the mountain night. And the birds are settling now. You can see them roosting in the upper branches of the spruces. Small, dark shapes, finding their places for the night, tucking themselves into the shelter of the needled branches. A flock of crossbills moves overhead, their call thin and bright in the cold air, their silhouettes briefly visible against the pale sky, before they too fold themselves into the forest. The whole mountain is settling. Every creature finds its warmth, its shelter, its rest for the night. And here you are, in your warm, bright carriage, doing the same. Gary gives a small, contented sigh. His purring slows just slightly. That particular slowing that means a cat is approaching its own deepest sleep. You move gently so as not to disturb him too much, back along the train toward your compartment. Gary drapes himself across your shoulders for the journey, a warm, living stole, his chin resting on your collarbone, his purring continuous and low. The dining carriage is quieter now. Henri has gone. Marta's knitting needles stopped knitting. Only the soft glow of the candles, the sound of the train and the snow against the windows are still here. But as you pass through, the waiter catches your eye and sets something on the nearest table with a small, inviting gesture. A pot of Ovaltine just made, steaming and chocolate dark, and beside it, a thin slice of Baumkuchen. That layered cake, each ring of it as fine as a year's growth, dusted with powdered sugar. tasting marzipan, butter, and something almost floral. You stand and eat and drink for just a few minutes. Gary is patient on your shoulders, and the warmth of the chocolate fills you from the inside, and the bohnkuchen melts on your tongue. Then you carry your warmth and your cat back to your compartment. The dark world outside the window has become a deep, velvety darkness, lit only by the snowfall itself. The flakes catching the train's light and glowing pale against the black. The mountains have become shapes, huge, felt presences, rather than things you can truly see. You can feel their mass, their age, their absolute stillness, even through the glass. They're like a surround of sleeping giants, and the train moves between them with a care and a quietness that seems fitting. Gary has resumed his place on the seat beside you. That perfect black and white circle again, his nose tucked under his tail, breathing slow and deep. Occasionally, one ear twitches, tracking some sound the rest of you cannot hear, some frequency of the mountain night that only a cat can register. Otherwise, he is utterly, perfectly still. On the small table beside your seat, there's a sprig of dried alpine herbs, chamomile and lavender, tied with a thin cotton ribbon. The scent is barely there, just a suggestion on the warm air, floral and herbal and faintly sweet. The scent of mountain meadows in summer held inside dried blooms, preserved and patient, offering their last softness to a winter night. The fireplace continues to make warm, crackling sounds. You breathe it in slowly, and something in your chest seems to quieten in response. Through the frosted glass, you can just make out the silhouettes of the pine trees on the slope above. Dark shapes against a sky that is almost the same dark. Only the trees are solid, and the sky has depth to it. A layered darkness behind the falling snow. The pines are heavy with their snow burden, their arms dropping low, meditating figures on the mountainside. And there, at the very edge of the forest, right at the tree line, something white moves, an alpine hare in its winter coat, so white it is nearly invisible against the snow, visible only by its motion, by the small shadow it casts, by the dark tips of its ears and the dark fleck of its eyes. It sits perfectly still for a moment, and then is simply gone. Not running, just gone, as if the snow absorbed it back into itself. The fire at the end of the carriage has burned to a bed of glowing embers now, a deep rose orange, pulsing very slowly. Time hears the soft language of the fire. Time hears the rhythm of the train on the tracks. Steady as a second hand, but slower, gentler, more like the counting of long, slow breaths. Gary's breathing slows further still. His small sides rise and fall, in the most peaceful rhythm you have ever observed. Watching him, you feel your own breathing begin to match his. Slower, deeper, more deliberate. Each breath in is a small gathering of warmth. Each breath out is a release. You settle both hands into the warmth of the blanket, fingers relaxed, palms resting open and easy against the cream wool. You feel your body sinking more deeply into the velvet cushion of your seat, as if the train's gentle motion has been, all this while, working on you the way water works on stone, gradually, inevitably shaping you toward rest. Outside, the snow continues to fall. The mountains are enormous and silent in the growing dark, and the train moves through the valley beneath them like a small, bright thing, carrying its warmth and its light through the vast, quiet cold. And on the white slopes, the mountain creatures are already in their own rest. The hare in its form beneath the snow, the fox curled in its earth among the roots of an ancient pine, the deer bedded down in a sheltered hollow of the forest, the birds tucked into the branches, the chamois standing still as stones on their high ledge, their eyes closed, their breath slow. Let your thoughts do this now. Let them arrive gently, any thought that comes, and then let them dissolve. Just as gently, just as naturally. They're just snowflakes against the window of your mind, arriving and dissolving, arriving and dissolving. Each one makes the silence after it a little deeper than before. The wool blanket is heavy and warm across your body. You can feel its weight across your chest, across your legs, a comforting pressure, like a gentle hand resting on you, saying, rest now, rest now. Everything is taken care of. Gary makes a small sound in his sleep, a tiny chirp, barely a sound at all, dreaming perhaps of his own adventures, the corridors he has walked, the kind strangers who have scratched behind his ears, the warm laps he has claimed, the mountain nights he has watched, pass through train windows. He is a well-traveled cat. He knows that the world is large and mostly good and full of warmth if you know where to look, and you know where to look. You are looking right now at the snow falling past the frosted window, at the embers glowing their last rose gold in the fireplace, at the mountains standing in the dark outside, at the warm light of the lamp on the walnut paneling. You can feel it happening, not as a decision, but as something that is simply occurring, the way sleep always occurs when the conditions are right, the way water finds its level, the way snow settles, the way a fire settles to embers, gently, inevitably, beautifully. Everything in you is moving toward rest. Notice how your body has sunk into the seat, how the velvet has shaped itself around you, how the cushions have accepted your weight, how there is no part of you that is not supported. Every bit of you is held, your head resting back, your spine released, your arms and hands are resting soft and open. Your legs are easy and still beneath the weight of the cream wool blanket. Notice how your breath has found its own deep, slow rhythm. Not something you are doing, something that is simply happening, the way your heart beats, the way your blood moves, the way your body knows, always and without instruction, how to take care of you. Trust your body to breathe. Trust the train to carry you. Trust the mountains to hold the night around you in their vast and ancient arms. You are safe. You are warm. You are loved by this night, by this journey, by the soft and ceaseless snow. Before you drift all the way down, let your awareness make one final gentle tour of the world around you. Feel the weight of the blanket across your body, the cream wool, warm and heavy, smelling of lavender. Feel Gary's warmth where he rests nearby, the subtle vibration of his purring. Notice your hands. They are resting somewhere warm, in the fold of the blanket, or perhaps in your lap. Your fingers are loose and soft, slightly curled, the way hands rest when they have truly let go of everything they have been holding all day. Notice your face. The skin of your forehead is smooth and cool. Your eyes rest easily behind closed lids. Your cheeks are warm. The muscles at the corners of your mouth are soft and still. Outside, the mountains continue their ancient work of simply being. The snow continues its patient work of falling on the pine branches, on the frozen river, on the high bare rocks, on the peaks themselves, building the silence, making the world more and more beautiful with each small, perfect, soundless addition. The mountain hare is white in the white dark. The fox sleeps on its earth. The deer breathe slowly in their hollow. The birds are still. All the wild creatures of the Alps have made their peace with this night. Only Gary's purring, that low, steady, ancient sound that cats have made beside sleeping humans for 10,000 years. A sound that says, all is well. A sound that says, you are not alone. The fireplace glows its last deep ember glow, patient and warm. The train rocks you, the snow falls, and the mountains stand in the deep, sweet, ancient dark of a winter night in the Alps. Gary curls a little closer without quite waking, guided by animal instinct toward your warmth. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. Only sleep. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.